You can spend a lifetime preparing to live and never actually live. This is the great trap of the mind. It convinces you that understanding something is the same as experiencing it, that if you read enough, plan well enough, model it in your head perfectly, you will be ready. But you never are. Reading about swimming is not swimming. Studying about love is not loving. Thinking about courage is not being brave. The mind is a powerful tool, but it often becomes the cage. It will try to solve the same problem 10 different ways, all while convincing you that progress is happening, when in reality, you're simply circling the same track, stuck in analysis paralysis. There's a reason people who've done it always sound simple. They speak plainly, they seem grounded. It's because they've gone through the fire. They've seen that most theory burns away in the heat of action. The maps are not the territory, the rules are not the reality. You can study for 10 years and still get destroyed in 1 minute in the real world if you haven't tested what you've learned. This is why action is sacred. It's the highest form of learning. Every time you act, you receive immediate feedback, sometimes painful, sometimes rewarding, always real. Action clarifies. You learn what works, but more importantly, you learn what doesn't. You learn where you're strong. You learn where you're pretending. This doesn't mean we abandon thought. It means we stop hiding in thought. Planning is useful, but only as a launching pad, not a home. The mind must eventually give way to motion, to doing, to building, speaking, starting, failing, moving. Because here's the truth no book or teacher can give you. Confidence comes after competence. And competence only comes from doing. The gym won't make you strong until you pick up the weight. The business won't teach you anything until you ship a product. The conversation won't change your relationship until you actually have it. Inaction is a subtle form of arrogance. It says, I'll act when I'm certain. But the world never gives us certainty. It only gives us windows, doors, and most people wait too long, thinking the perfect plan will save them. But it won't. The only way to learn how to walk is to stumble. The only way to write is to write badly first. The only way to succeed is to get comfortable failing. Somewhere deep inside, you already know this. That's why you feel frustrated when you scroll for hours or read endless threads but still feel stuck. You're consuming but not creating, absorbing but not applying. You mistake the appearance of growth for the substance of growth. There's a kind of peace that only comes after action, not because you succeeded, but because you showed up. You stopped overthinking and stepped into life. You made the call. You launched the project. You said the thing, and whether it worked or not, you moved. You became a participant instead of a spectator. It's very hard to respect yourself when you stay on the sidelines. You might be comfortable. You might even be admired, but deep down you'll know that you traded the risk of failure for the pain of regret. And regret is far more corrosive. That's why I say, act small, act fast. Act now. Don't wait for perfection. Move before you're ready. You'll never be fully ready. Read a little, think a little, but do a lot, because life doesn't reward the person with the best plan. It rewards the person who actually plays the game. Some people spend their whole lives preparing for a future that never arrives. They want guarantees, they want certainty, but all you'll ever really have is this moment, this decision to act or not, to risk or not. And the only thing worse than failure is watching someone else live your dream while you stay safely stuck in theory. So if you feel stuck, act, not because you have the answers, but because you never will until you begin. Action turns chaos into clarity, fear into momentum, doubt into wisdom. Life is not lived in the pages, it's lived in the trying. You don't think your way into a new life, you act your way into one. Discomfort is the price of admission to a meaningful life. That's a truth most people run from, but if you want real growth, if you want peace, if you want a life that's yours, discomfort is not optional, it's necessary. We are wired to avoid pain, we seek comfort instinctively. Warmth over cold, ease over strain, pleasure over pain. The mind thinks safety equals happiness, but comfort isn't happiness. Comfort is numbness, it dulls the edge, it soothes the anxiety, but it also kills the spark. It keeps you surviving, but not thriving. There's a hidden cost to always feeling good. You stop evolving, you stop becoming, You get stuck in routines that feel safe but eat away at your spirit. You don't even notice it at first. A quiet boredom, a subtle dissatisfaction, a sense that you're meant for more, but can't quite touch it. That's the cost of avoiding discomfort. Growth only happens at the edge of discomfort. That's where change lives. That's where truth lives. That's where the parts of you that are buried start to rise. When you do something hard, something that stretches you, you meet yourself in a deeper way. You discover what you're made of. You test your limits and realize they were self-imposed. Most people never reach their potential not because they're incapable, but because they're unwilling to be uncomfortable long enough to find out who they really are. It's not the strongest who grow, it's not the smartest, it's the ones who can sit in discomfort without running, the ones who don't need to escape every time things get tense, the ones who don't need a distraction, a screen, a dopamine hit every few minutes. That's why meditation is so powerful, not because it's relaxing, but because it forces you to sit still and face yourself. No noise, no avoidance, just you, your thoughts, your fears, your patterns, and the more you sit with them, the more you stop being ruled by them. The same goes for building anything real, starting a business, writing a book, having an honest relationship. None of it is comfortable. It forces you to show up, to be seen, to take hits, to feel exposed. But that's the arena. That's where life happens. Discomfort is the compass. If something scares you but matters to you, it's usually the right direction. It's the signal that growth is nearby. You can ignore it, sure. You can stay where it's warm and easy, but you'll pay for it later. Regret always costs more than discomfort. What most people call discipline is really just the ability to tolerate discomfort, waking up early. Saying no, sticking to your word, these aren't magical traits. They're just habits built on the willingness to be uncomfortable for something higher. You don't need motivation. You need clarity. Once you know what you want and what it costs, you either step up and pay the price, or you stop pretending. You don't get to complain about the results you didn't earn. When you embrace discomfort, you separate yourself. Because most people avoid it. They won't make the call. They won't go to the gym. They won't speak up. They won't do the hard, necessary, unglamorous things that real growth demands. But if you're willing to do that consistently, even a little bit, you'll rise. You'll compound. You'll outpace the talkers, the thinkers, the planners. Everything worthwhile sits on the other side of discomfort. Everything, confidence, skill, freedom, peace, none of it is handed out. It's earned in the moments when you want to quit, want to hide, want to stop. But don't. It's not about suffering for the sake of suffering. This isn't martyrdom. It's about choosing meaningful discomfort. The kind that builds, the kind that shapes, the kind that opens you up, not shuts you down. You'll know the difference. One kind drains you, the other kind awakens you. Life will challenge you anyway. Pain is inevitable, but if you choose your pain with intention, it becomes powerful. It becomes fuel. It becomes transformation. So stop running from the friction. Start leaning into it, that difficult conversation. Have it, that thing you've been procrastinating. Start it, that fear you've been avoiding. Face it, not tomorrow, now, before your mind talks you out of it again. Every moment of discomfort you embrace is a brick in the foundation of your future self. The version of you you're trying to become, they're already on the other side of that discomfort. You just have to meet them there. We spend most of life chasing the mirage at the end of the road. We tell ourselves that when the company IPO, when the book hits the list, when the relationship lands forever, then we'll relax. But the moment a goal becomes an idol, we place our peace outside ourselves. We hand the steering wheel to chance, to timing, to 1,000 variables that could never care about our inner state. Outcomes, no matter how carefully plotted, live in the domain of probability. Betting your happiness on probability is a slow form of self-sabotage. Detachment is not indifference, it is the recognition of limits. You control the input, the intention, the consistency, the craft. The universe controls everything else. Once that boundary is understood, stress dissolves into clarity. You wake each day to focus on the one slice of reality you truly own, the quality of your actions. The results become at most feedback, not identity. Look at the great builders. They plant seeds by the thousand. They launch, they iterate, they pivot. They do not cry over each leaf that fails to sprout. They keep tending the soil because they love the act of cultivation more than any single harvest. If a crop comes, wonderful. If it doesn't, they have still lived a day doing what feels aligned with who they are. That is wealth no bank can measure. Attachment to outcomes is attachment to stories you tell yourself about the future. Stories are rarely accurate. Reality moves faster than narrative. A friendship you think will last decades might vanish next month. A side project you toss online at midnight could pay your rent 5 years from now. Knowing this, why cling to predictions? Replace the habit of forecasting with the practice of presence. Bring full attention to each step, not because it guarantees success, but because it is the only place life actually occurs. Detachment amplifies creativity. When you aren't obsessing over how the market will react, you're free to explore strange corners, to take eccentric risks, to follow curiosity wherever it wanders. Innovation requires the willingness to look foolish for a while. Attachment fears ridicule, so it sticks to the beaten path. Detachment sees ridicule as meaningless noise, just another transient outcome. In relationships, detaching from outcomes means loving without possession. You cannot force another mind to remain in orbit around yours. People change, needs evolve, seasons shift. Love that demands permanence becomes control. Love that enjoys the present connection without clenching stays light, breathable, alive. Paradoxically, that lightness often keeps relationships healthier and longer lived than any desperate grip ever could. Money works the same way. Chase it for the scoreboard alone, and you'll find nothing is enough. Generate value because you enjoy solving problems, and the money that arrives is a byproduct, not a chain. When downturns come, and they always do, you won't crumble. You never pegged your worth to digits in an account in the first place. But if I detach the mind objects, won't I lose my edge? No, you don't need anxiety to perform. A calm archer draws a steadier bow. A relaxed surfer rides a larger wave. Detachment removes friction. It doesn't remove ambition. You can want intensely and act decisively while remaining at peace with whatever follows. Picture a gambler pouring focus into each hand, then collecting chips or walking away with the same serene face. Skill plus surrender, that is the unbeatable combination. Practice detachment by narrowing your time horizon. Instead of imagining the next 10 years, give everything to the next 10 minutes. Ask, what is the highest quality action available right now? Send the email. Write the paragraph, do the push-ups, make the apology. When the mind drifts to results, gently pull it back to process. Meditation trains this muscle. Observe thoughts of success or failure, label them, let them pass. Soon you notice that outcomes are just more thoughts, clouds drifting across an open sky. Another exercise, run small, inexpensive experiments, launch a micro product that might flop, talk to a stranger. Invest an amount you can afford to lose. Deliberately lower the stakes so failure feels like a game. Each time an outcome disappoints and you remain unharmed, the psyche learns that attachment was unnecessary armor. Eventually, you can play at larger scales under the same light armor or none at all. When you detach from outcomes, you enter an asymmetric game. Your upside remains infinite because good results still delight you. Your downside collapses towards zero because disappointment no longer wounds. Freedom, then, is not the absence of desire. It is the absence of the false belief that your identity hinges on desire's fulfillment. You still move, strive, create. You simply refuse to anchor your soul to the scoreboard. Live like that, and every day is playable, regardless of weather, markets, or moods. You become antifragile, a learner, not a loser, when plans fall apart. Fortune may favor you or not, but either way you stand centered, hands steady, ready for the next experiment. And that, finally, is the quiet victory underneath all visible victories, to be the person who cannot be owned by any outcome, yet is capable of shaping many.